So, in last week's channel update, I said I would do another episode explaining why I took down what was, at the time, had just that week become the biggest video on the channel. And so here we are. All of this ties in with that existential crisis I was talking about in the channel update, where, just this year has been quite challenging, been rethinking a lot of things, and just a lot of time. There's been some writer's block and just a lot of questions being asked about what I'm doing with the channel and where do we go from here. And one of the things I was ruminating on was this video, the postmodern signing of a petition in the 1970s. So for those of you who haven't seen it, you probably won't have a chance to see it now. Well, I might put it up on Patreon. We'll see. We'll talk about that later. But the video was basically about the postmodern philosophers and existential philosophers like Sartre and the Beauvoir. They all signed this petition in the 1970s, which was basically about abolishing the age of consent in France, and all part of this program of freedom and undoing repressions after 1968. So the student revolt there. So that was kind of the basic gist of what the video was about. And the reason why I made it, it's kind of part of my rehabilitation. So with during the culture wars, I was really into Jordan Peterson and other figures in the intellectual dark web. That kind of space with Brett Weinstein, Eric Weinstein, Joe Rogan, Sam Harris, and Douglas Murray and a few others. So I was kind of in that space. That was kind of the side of the culture wars that grabbed me, and I think really kind of coming out of them and then getting into Wilbur and just seeing this general attitude towards leftism as being quite dismissive, I at some point got a bit sober and was like, hey, I need to actually investigate this and see what the substance of all this is. So this video was kind of the beginning of my journey in that, because the reason why I chose the postmodernists as the place to kind of get into, we'll say, the woke ideology was, I just thought I'd get into the philosophical underpinnings. Jordan Peterson's always railing against the postmodern neo-Marxists, as we talked about in the video on Jordan Peterson's Jungian shadow. And so I thought, okay, he's talking about them a lot. The woke kind of talk about them a lot as the we'll say the ancestors of the movement. There's a lot of respect and deference paid, and in a lot of leftist YouTuber videos you'll see in the background some of Foucault's books. So they're very prominent thinkers in that tradition, and so it seemed like a really good place to start. So the other side of that is, when I studied philosophy in Scotland, I studied in the Anglo-American analytic tradition. Even though I probably belonged more in the continental tradition, I was mad into Nietzsche and the existentialists at that point, and they're very much part of the continental tradition. And so I was trained more in the analytic tradition, and I guess this was also another way for me to be like, I get to look into the other side and research the other side, and very fortunate to have the kind of the platform and the lifestyle that enables me to do that. So if you're confused about this distinction between analytic and continental, I did make a video a couple of years ago on this. This is kind of the big split in academic philosophy over the last century, and we'll say continental side being more like Nietzsche, Heidegger, coming into the existentialists and then into the postmodernists, with the structuralists kind of being between the existentialists and the postmodernists there. Postmodernists often being called post-structuralists, or most of them. So that's kind of the chain of evolution in leftist kind of thought, in continental thought, and the leftist tradition very much being, and the woke very much being a kind of a downstream of this continental philosophical tradition. So mostly France and Germany. So in France, postmodernist thinkers; in Germany, more the Frankfurt School thinkers. So all of these kind of converged. I decided to go with the postmodernists because they had this sort of big appeal. But if you want to learn any more about that analytic continental distinction, I'll put a a link in the cards there to that. And yeah, so in choosing the postmodernists and then getting into it, this was kind of the first major criticism that for me had cropped up, and I was something that was quite common that I heard about. So I was like, okay, well, this is a good place to start, because my intention was, okay, let's try and get into their point of view and in good faith understand how they arrived at this, because obviously the idea of being pro-pedophilia or of abolishing the age of consent and saying that kids can consent to sex, it doesn't sound great. It kind of it doesn't sound great. That's kind of that was the tone of the video, basically. But yeah, so I was trying to get into their perspective and understand it fully, and I'm not convinced that I succeeded. So yeah, I did a good job of like getting into the student revolts of 1968, which was really the foundation of that movement. I mean, the postmodern writers had kind of obviously been educated before that, and a lot of them had written books. Most of them had written books before 1968, but really 1968 is the watershed moment after which it kind of characterizes their philosophies for the next decade or two. And so that's like really pivotal moment. And so I think in that video I did a really good job of excavating that and getting into the 1968 movement, or what happened in 1968. But I think in the end, obviously there's a degree of time constraint. I've got limited time to produce these videos, and just by the end I was just like, this is my best go. But I don't really feel like I got to their why exactly they're like that, why they came to that petition. And so it wasn't a perfect video in that sense, even if I don't think it was a terrible video, because when I rewatched it at the start of this year, it was kind of with an eye to that. I was like, was it really bad and I just haven't clocked it? But no, I rewatched the video and I was like, no, this is a good faith, nuanced kind of point of view, and I can live with this. But the title and the thumbnail were dubious though. And another theme that I've been reflecting a lot on in 2024 is the distinction between power and love, kind of we'll say Turner's version of that, which is structure and communitas, or the other way I was thinking about it was like the strategic / pragmatic versus the authentic. So all of these kind of distinctions of where do we put our emphasis. And I think when it came down to that title and thumbnail, I think I felt too much on the side of power, the kind of pragmatic, like, I want this video to do well, I want to give it a good push out into the world, so I'll kind of give it a good hook so that when it pulls people in, then they can get this nuanced kind of point of view. So I think that was how I justified it, but I just think now I just flew a little bit too close to the power side of the line. And yeah, coming out the gate, that wasn't such a big deal, because my videos up to that point, it was just always the culture in the comments. It's just like been something I've loved in the channel. And so I think the comments at first were good, because were positive and nuanced, because they were coming from the audience I built to that point. But then 6 months later, the video at first didn't do particularly. Yeah, it didn't do anything sensational. But 6 months later, I made a video on Foucault and on his theory of power. And yeah, love that theory. I'll link that there in the cards as well. But I was really happy with that video, really proud of that video. And so that was around June 22. And so that video came up. And then as that was doing well, it kind of triggered the other one. So the other one started to get a lot of attention. So that was the first big bump of the other video. And the negative comments really started to kind of pour in, but they were kind of balanced out by the fact that I was like, okay, so we've got this really positive laying out of like one of probably the chief postmodernist, Foucault, of his theories, and like seeing like the depth and the great philosophical work in that. And then we've got the negative side of this movement. So it felt like a balanced thing at that point, where I was like, okay, I'm actually quite happy with this. This feels good. So at that point it was all right, even though there was negative comments. But it wasn't until last year. So last July, I came back from Camino, the channel shortly after hit 100,000, and this video just turned into a hockey stick. Like if you look at the analytics, it just goes whoop, and channel went from 100 to 150,000 in a very short period of time, and this video got like 600,000 views in the space of a month or two. So just massive amount of growth. But with that came the sinking feeling, came the sense of like, oh, like these comments, this is, I don't know about this, and this a level of a lot of questioning going on. And yeah, it really turned into a really unnuanced kind of festival of hatred in the comment section, and some of it I found funny at first, like the odd comment being like, oh, these people should be taken out behind the shed and shot, and I was like, it appealed to my sense of dark humor. And that, at first funny, but then once you're getting a lot of those comments, it's like, oh. But then it was the ones that were just basically racist against the French. Like, this is typical of all French people. All French people are perverts. All French people are pedophiles. All of this sort of anti-French stuff. And then there was the really cringy stuff, which was the look at their noses. These people are all Jewish. What do all these people have in common? Which, even if it was true, would be bizarre. But the fact that is that, like, that's not true. And I went off before making this video to research that. And the only one of the postmodernists, as far as I can tell, who was Jewish was Derrida. And Derrida didn't sign this petition. So that really, that was really quite a painful thing. So that was giving me a lot of doubts about the video, but then the hockey stick kind of leveled out, and I got caught back up in the grind of like, oh, I need to do the research for the next video, and the next video, and the next video, and so just kind of put it on the back burner and didn't really think about it. So yeah, I don't want to give you the impression that this was like a foregone conclusion and that I was definitely going to take down the video or definitely going to change something, and I was just ignoring it and I was in denial. It was kind of, I just didn't take the space. I didn't have the space of mind to really sit down and think through the ethical side of it. So it wasn't obvious to me what needed to be done. And what I did think was maybe the title and thumbnail should be changed. It didn't even occur to me at that point of just turning off the comments. I don't know, but it wasn't obvious to me because I was happy with the content, and I thought the content was quite nuanced. So yeah, there was an ambiguity in what to do, and what I've come to reflect on is that the comments, and this is a good lesson for all aspiring YouTubers, the comments that I got reflected the title and thumbnail that I put out, not necessarily the content. And that's something I will learn from in the future, because as I was saying, I thought I could hook people in with the content and then, or with the title and thumbnail, and then when it got to the content, they would be, they'd be like, oh, that's actually more nuanced than I thought. But what happens is you come on, and then some people just comment whenever they see the title and thumbnail and are in the general vibe of the video. They comment with their kind of hateful, kind of knee-jerk kind of stuff, maybe before moving on to another video. And then you get this title, thumbnail, and then the culture in the comment section. And then you don't really, all of that's going to override, all that context is going to override the signal that might be coming through in the video. And so I think that's where it all went wrong, assuming the video, and the video again, it's not like I came to an amazing defense that no one could deny. I just came to I think this is what they did. I think this is the perspective they came to, and maybe, this is where it stands. But yeah, so I didn't come to any final conclusion. So maybe if the video had been super strong in that way, it could have balanced it out, but I just think otherwise, it doesn't really work. And I think the other element that kind of held me back was probably just the fact this video brought so much growth to the channel, and as I was saying, moved 100 to 150,000 very short period of time. A lot of money coming in, which really helps, especially earlier on in the career. And by the way, on a side note, if you want to help me out on the journey of love over power, then Patreon. you can support on Patreon, make the world a better place, become part of a wise and nuanced group of people, a community of people. And yeah, we'll have book club. We're starting to read Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground, podcast interviews with experts and other creators, and much, much more. But, if you want to support against, the war on the algorithm, that's not really a war on an algorithm, but you know what I mean. Power, love, support Patreon. What was it? So yeah, I think all of these kind of, would say, power kind of concerns of making money and channel growing and that sense of momentum, and then that combined with the default being to leave the video up and to just continue working on the grind in YouTube. I think all of that was basically what led to me leaving it up. And so the one thing I will say is that I was never tempted to make more of that type of content. Like, even though a video is getting super popular, I wasn't tempted to be like, oh, that's what's working, I should make more like that. Because, I think I just knew, going by those comments, that it's who wants that type of culture in the comments, a culture of hatred and polarization and really the kind of tragedy of the comments collapsing in that. So... but I see people like Russell Brand and Jordan Peterson who have succumbed to that, I think, and they've kind of gone on this journey with their audience into the worst parts of themselves. And I think David Fuller from Rebel Wisdom did a great article on Jordan Peterson back in 2021, kind of talking about how the dynamics of like audience capture, of like you get this feedback loop between the less nuanced parts of the audience and the creator, and they're the ones that are most supporting. Meanwhile, you're getting criticism from outside, and so you just get locked in. So Russell Brand got locked into this conspirituality side, and Jordan Peterson got locked into his just really doubling down on his blind hatred of leftists. And recently I've been reading an essay of Peterson's from 2005 that I just absolutely love, and I will be writing a script on it very soon. Basically, it's the peacemaking among higher order primates, and he's exploring the difference between like local victories, which is the kind of power victories of status and status, charisma, this domain of like just wealth, power, sexual attraction. That's kind of what a local victory looks like. Whereas he talks about the peacemaker as seeking a transcendental victory. So there's islands of order in an ocean of the transcendental which surrounds them all, and the peacemaker goes out into this no man's land and out there seeks to find the facts that can bridge between antagonists and can bring peace through connecting these different groups by giving them a shared kind of world understanding and helping them to see each other. And that was really inspiring. And in the video, I'll be looking basically at how Peterson has kind of become the opposite of that, and he's become a local victor. And I think that there's an element of audience capture. But anyway, that's kind of a separate thing. There's just the disappointment in Peterson there. But yeah, I guess the point I wanted to make is that I haven't been tempted to go that way. And I think, even though there's an obvious path to growth there, I'm sure, but it's just not the impact that I want to have on the world. It's just not. We want to do more than that. Now maybe I think with Peterson, he's just evolved at a different time, and I think maybe it's if I got older and more set in way and there was a new trend, maybe I could end up. I'm not saying that there's any difference in that sense. I just think you got to be more vigilant. You always got to be vigilant of that shadow element and of that just pure hatred towards other people. So I wasn't tempted to make more videos like that, even if it's a limitation to growth, but still I left the video up. And then fast forward 6 months, I come into 2024 and I have this kind of the breaks going on in the psyche, and I have time to think about this, and I have time to really contemplate, okay, let's think about this video, and I guess what I came to is that my intention with the video was to seek, in that Petersonian language, a transcendental victory, was to find a way to bridge between the polarities, find a way to bring everyone together, and let's try and understand how these thinkers got to that place that they signed this petition. That was kind of the intention, was a transcendental peacemaking kind of thing, to use that. I'm using that language a lot now, but yeah, to kind of do that transcendental thing. So that was the intention, but I guess the missing piece that I had for the last 6 months with that, where I had questions around it, but I wasn't sure what to do. I think the missing piece is that intention isn't all that matters, and the outcome really does matter, and you really have to think about what is the impact you're having on the world. And the impact that I was having on the world is that, my intention in making the video was good, but the approach, it's being approached as something hateful, and in the comment section it's spreading hate, and so I can see that it's radiating hate out into the world rather than bridging between things, rather than helping and understanding, helping and empathizing. It was only leading to more hatred. So I'm sure while there were many people in the 1.2 million that watched it who came away with a nuanced view and were maybe like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, there's something in that about why they got there. I have more of an understanding. But I imagine for every one of those, there was 100 of the other type, if not 1,000 of the other type. And so, yeah, that's not what I want to do with the living philosophy. I want it to bring more understanding and more, bridge between things in the world. And so I guess the decision hence to take down that video. So yeah, we want to work towards transcendental victories here. We want to work towards transcendental peace, a peace that bridges between the different adversaries and their different local things. So trying to get to the points of view where we can unite the leftist and the alt-right. What is trying to find the way to bridge between these so that people can hear each other, and once they can hear each other, then maybe, once we can have conversations, then maybe we can start growing back together rather than polarizing further out. That, at least, is the intention. So we're looking for peace rather than local victories, looking to discover and be curious rather than looking to attack, and looking to listen to other people rather than to make a scapegoat out of their point of view that's easy to attack. And so to think of this in the language of the prophet at the edge of the inside, when Peterson is attacking the postmodernists or the leftists, he's not attacking them from the edge of the inside. It's not an internal critique. What he's done is he's created a scapegoat, a straw man, against which he can gather the hatred of people to unite against that thing. So this goes into René Girard's idea of scapegoat psychology, and how this is historically a great way to bring peace. You just make a straw man of one individual or one group, and then you can remove all the other hatreds in the rest of the society by just projecting it on that and attacking that group. And obviously we can think of the nasty Germanic National Socialist Party in that sense, and how they kind of ganged up on that. But this goes all the way back to throughout human history, this scapegoat mechanism. And so Peterson, when he's attacking the postmodern neo-Marxists, it's as an outsider. He doesn't understand their perspective at all. He's just going from this straw man created by Stephen Hicks, which is the book that Peterson read, where he got all of this from, and then attacking it in that. And very poor scholarship, and it's just quite sad. And I think it can only bring bad things, because René Girard just says we cannot do that in the 21st century. We can't do that in the 20th, late post World War II. We can't really do that, because if you try and use the scapegoat mechanism to solve societal problems, when we've got the weapons of the gods, when we've got nukes, when we've got just the level of technology that we've got now, and the scale at which everything happens, there's just no way that it's going to work out well. So I just don't think that that's what we should be working towards, and that's not what we're going to do with the living philosophy. So okay, it might slow growth, it might hurt finances, but integrity is the most important thing, even if it takes a few months to kind of come to that integrity. And it's been a major learning experience. It's been it's been I've learned a lot about YouTube through this, and I learned a lot about, I guess, my own values, and it's developed a lot of things in doing it. So I'm really grateful for that, I guess. Even if it's been, it doesn't make me feel the best about myself in a way. It's not the thing I'm most proud of. So even though it's more impact rather than intention. But anyway, that's kind of where we're at with it. So I might, as I said, put it up on Patreon because I think that there's a better context for a more nuanced understanding when it comes to Patreon compared to the rabbit hole mentality of YouTube. So I'm still not sure about it because I'm really happy with the 1968 bit. There's some really good things in there, but yeah, we'll see. I might do that. And yeah, so that's everything to do with that video. As an epilogue to that, it's funny how things work, that the week after I took that video down, I put up the video Was Jung anti-Semitic? And very similar kind of ethical situation emerging where it just had comments which were even worse than the other video. Just a lot of anti-Semitic kind of hatred, and yeah, I've decided to leave that one up and gone a different way with that one because I actually think I'm really proud of that video, and I think it's these accusations of anti-Semitism against Jung have been hanging around since Freud threw them at him in 1914 and kind of gathered steam in the 1930s. And so yeah, I think that series is important because it puts Jung in kind of a context and takes him down off this demigod kind of status, and it's just like he's a man who was of a particular time at a particular age and incredibly wise and came out with great insights, but let's not see him as someone that's beyond criticism. Let's not see him as someone who we have to take every word he said as gospel. And so I think that's an important series. There's going to be a third episode coming up in that series where we look at, it's probably the worst one as far as Jung is concerned, of racism. And yeah, I'm sure that will cause kick up a bit of dust. But anyway, I decided to leave that video up because it's nuanced. It does a really good job of laying it all out and not coming down in defense of Jung, but also not just railing against him and attacking him. It's kind of just like, here's the accusations, decide for yourself. But the comments just didn't really reflect that. I think, again, it's a case of seeing that term in the title and then just railing against that in the comments, and so I decided to turn them off because, similar to the other video, it kind of just gives, once a certain culture develops in the comments, people are you lose the nuance in the video, and so I didn't want to destroy the nuance in the video by having this kind of like unnuanced, just filled with hate in the comment section, and so decided to change things there. And I did have people comment afterwards on other videos, having seen that I was kind of suppressing free speech or whatever, but I mean, I've gotten rid of that there. So with that, I can always smell out this, the worldview behind that is the idea of the town hall, and the idea that humans are rational beings that can have, if you leave free speech happen, then automatically the nuanced point of view will emerge, and the right view shall win out, the truth shall win out. And I think that's, having studied a lot of biases and heuristics last year, I just think that's really not how it works. I think that free speech requires a very conscious container, and it's got to be very well managed. The town hall has got to be very well managed for that nuance to emerge and for the right level of nuance to emerge. And it's worth remembering that the founding fathers of America reacted strongly against the idea that that America was a democracy, and were instead saying republic, because the more of the idea of wisdom and the idea of not just the mob mentality of democracy, because democracy doesn't necessarily include this nuanced, wise digestion of things. And so I think that I believe in free speech, but I think that it doesn't happen automatically. I think it takes a very specific container, and I think once a culture develops, it's very hard. So the culture is very important. So if you go into a comments section and there's all these people that are anti-Semitism, then, and if you're obviously anti-Semitism, then you know that you're probably going to be attacked if you're expressing your point of view, because people are going to feel safe with that point of view there. Whereas if you were in the middle of some Jewish fundamentalists, Zionist Jewish fundamentalists in Israel at a Netanyahu rally or something, and you were to express your anti-Semitic views, it's the same thing. You probably wouldn't feel particularly safe in expressing your point of view in that context. So the culture really determines whether free speech has any efficacy, because free speech doesn't just happen because you're legally allowed to say it. There's the degrees of like, well, what is the undercurrent which allows you to speak? Are people actually free to speak, or is your level of has it become so imbalanced that actually there isn't a freedom of speech? Because it's not. It's going to be vulnerable for you. You know you're going to get attacked if you express a certain point of view in a certain context. So I would say that that's not free speech. And while you can legally have free speech, it doesn't mean that the speech is free. I'm not sure if that makes sense. Be happy to discuss that in the comments or in a future video. But yeah, it's just when people say that, I'm just like, I know the kind of point of view here, but I just really think that it's a naive Enlightenment era perspective of humanity, which sees us as purely rational beings and has failed to take into account how our motivations are coloured by Foucauldian power relations of the opinions of others, the culture of a comment section or whatever, or of the society in general, kind of shaping us in a certain way. And even if you weren't able to hide behind a username on YouTube and it was your personal thing and you knew everyone at work was going to see that you'd commented this, would you be happy to comment it then? All of these things are different power relations that determine where free speech is. And I think free speech in a town hall requires a very proper and well maintained container. And I don't think that the YouTube comment section, especially with controversial videos, I think on controversial videos, I think non-controversial videos and even some controversial videos, you can get a balanced conversation going where it's able to move both directions. But when it becomes so imbalanced one direction, that's no longer freedom of speech. And so I felt the best decision for kind of keeping the nuance of that video. So I was really happy with the nuance in the video itself, hence why I didn't take it down. But I felt like the comment section just made it seem like was letting people off the hook from interacting with the content, and so I thought it best to turn off the comments and just let that video do what it did. So I think part of the reason why the comment section developed in that direction was the timing. I mean, that's a massive part of it. So I wrote the script for that video back in July or August, not too long after I was back from Camino. Video was made by September, October, but then so the events in the Middle East happened, and I was like, oh well, I can't post this now. But came around to the new year, I didn't really have more video content, and I was like, it's been a few months, it's not the main thing anymore. But yeah, so I think that the timing was still too soon for that, and so I'm kind of maybe I should have stuck it in the vault for years, but then I wanted to make the series, so I don't know, it's better to have the comment section off. But yeah, I'm still not sure that I should have posted it, given how it went down. So yeah, I mean, just one ethical dilemma solved and another ethical dilemma raised. So interesting set of thoughts. I think it was just interesting timing in that ethical kind of sense, to be like, I just dealt with this one and now this set of stuff is coming up. And my first impression was, is this a demographic thing? Is there like something that's come over from that other video? And while I think there's a degree of that, I actually think it's to do with YouTube itself, because I think we can have good conversations around that stuff and find overlap in views and be able to understand each other's views in the right context, in the right container. But again, YouTube, especially when you're someone that's going down a rabbit hole, and this is just a video that's popping up somewhere along that, rather than maybe going through the living philosophy videos or philosophy videos in general, then maybe there'd be that. But so I just don't think YouTube lends itself to that nuanced kind of point of view. But I think that there are other platforms and containers that maybe do allow for more nuanced conversations. For example, Patreon. Have I talked about Patreon? So yeah, I think that Patreon has the because you're conscious in choosing what you're watching on Patreon rather than following this kind of algorithmic rabbit hole, and because you're part of a community and so there's the same people cropping up every time, there's more of a social reputational thing built in, so who you are kind of matters more, and it's becoming more of a community. So this is the kind of context within which these conversations can kind of happen, and I think productive disagreements can happen. So I would recommend if you become a member of the Living Philosophy Patreon community. We're trying to build a more understanding side of the world over there, and we all benefit from it. I benefit because I can pay my bills. I can make videos without worrying about my daily bread. The world benefits because we've got a more nuanced community. We've got much more wise and nuanced thinkers coming out of this community, and you benefit because as well as all the wisdom that's in the community, there's the book clubs that we'll be engaging in and reading these classics of literature. So we're starting to read Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground, so that's a great thing, and we'll be reading more classics of philosophy and more philosophy and just good writings in general. You also get to plumb the depths of my wisdom every month in Q&As, and that's not a benefit anyone should overlook. There's also we'll be part of a community with just much more discussion and more getting deeper into things. Think we might start a Discord, so yeah, we can all just have a much more of a kind of a round circle kind of conversation. But we'll see about all that. But yeah, really just cultivating the Patreon thing and seeing that's got a lot of solutions to a lot of the problems that kind of been running into in the existential crisis this year. So highly recommend checking out Patreon. That's all for this episode of The Living Philosophy. If you want to learn more about the changes coming on the channel, the different types of content, and the kind of change of style, more talking head kind of stuff, and more changes in this sense, then yeah, check out the channel update, which I will link is linked here. And yeah, otherwise I'd just like to thank the patrons, especially David Pilabosian and Abysso Fiissa. But all the patrons that you see here, if you want to get your name in the credits like these wonderful people, can join the Patreon and become part of a wonderful, nuanced and wise community. And we've got book club, we've got podcasts coming up with experts and with other creators, and yeah, much more. And as ever, if you have any thoughts, insights or feedback, love to hear from you down in the comments. Otherwise, I shall see you next time. Thank you for watching.